Hello everyone and welcome, my name is Thundernumel and I welcome you to my channel. This video will be tailored to all of you budget players and you guys that want to get into Yu-Gi-Oh but are not so keen on spending much money on cards. I will give you a deck list that you can probably build with just €10 or $12 and you will definitely be able to top locals with it. The only thing that you need to be aware of is that since you are playing a deck on a budget, you will need to pilot the deck masterfully in order to get the wins. Meta decks are typically much easier to pilot since they're consistent in a way that most of their hands will end on whatever board they intend to make. You, on the other hand, need to use your cards very carefully and also know what your opponent is about to do in order to prevent them and get the win. In this episode we will be focusing on a crawler deck list, and I am well aware that this list might break the €10 mark if you go by the Yugioh Pro prices. However, most if not all of the cards I'm about to show you can buy for much less from Card Market, or even a friend. Heck, if you have a friend that has a crawler core, he will probably sell it to you for about $1. Without further ado, let's get into the deck list and the strategy. So we are here with the deck list and you might be overwhelmed to see all of these cards. However, the strategy of the deck isn't that hard to understand. The goal of the deck is to get Deus Ex Crawler onto the field, and his effect states that when it's flipped face up, it continuously negates all of the effects that are activated on your opponent's side of the field, which is basically a skill drain, but it's a bit better and it's on a 3000 defense body. So the goal of the deck would be to summon Deus Ex, flip it face up and then hope that your opponent cannot play through it. The easiest way to summon Deus Ex is for your opponent to remove one of your crawlers from the field while it's face up, and any of the crawlers, the smaller ones that is, state that when they are removed from the field while face up, you can special summon two crawlers with different names from the one that was removed from your deck in face down defense position. So what you would do is get one of them removed, then you would summon a Deus Ex and another one to take its place. Now, relying on your opponent to remove your monsters is really not the greatest strategy, but that's where World Legacy's Mind Meld comes in. So the effect of this card states that when an opponent's monster activates its effect while you control a crawler monster, the activated effect becomes return one face-up monster your opponent controls to the hand. So the idea is you would normal summon a crawler. Then your opponent would think that you're an idiot because you normal summoned a flip summon monster. However, you would set the Mind Meld, and then when an opponent activates an effect of a monster, you would chain the Mind Meld, turn the effect to return one of the monsters to the hand, then they would be forced to return your crawler to the hand, and then your crawler will activate in hand special summoning 2 from the deck. In order to get more consistent access to World Legacy's Mind Meld, we also play triple copies of Trap Trick. So what Trap Trick does is it banishes one normal trap from your deck except Trap Trick, and then you can set one with the same name from the one that you banished directly onto the field, and it can be activated this turn. However, you can only activate one trap card for the rest of this turn after you activated Trap Trick. So you have your access to your Mind Meld, you have your crawlers. Now, what do the crawlers do? Well, first of all, we have Crawler Axon, which destroys a spell or a trap on the field when it's flipped. We have Crawler Dendrite that can foolish burial any monster from your deck to the graveyard, which we mostly want to send the Absolute King Backjack. We also have Crawler Glial, which can summon any crawler from your hand or graveyard when it's flipped. Crawler Ranveer, which can target up to 2 crawlers in your graveyard and add them to the hand. And triple Crawler Spine, which is basically a man-eater bug, meaning that when it's flipped you can target one monster on the field and destroy it. We are also playing triple Crawler Field, which is not an amazing card, however it's decent enough and it's very cheap, so you can play it, but you will side out of 1 or 2 copies in games 2 and 3 most of the times. So what it does is all crawler monsters on the field gain 300 attack and defense, and once per turn you can special summon one level 2 or lower insect monster from your hand in face down defense or face up defense position. And when your flip monster is destroyed by battle with an opponent's monster, you can send your opponent's monster to the graveyard. So basically what this does is it deters your opponent from attacking into your face down crawlers, and if they are face up, they don't want to remove them by card effects because they'll trigger the effect to summon 2 from the deck. We also have the most amazing card in the deck, which isn't saying that much, but let's see what it does. So World Legacy Survivor allows you to excavate 5 cards from the top of your deck, and then if you do, you can add 1 excavated crawler monster or a World Legacy card. Also, you send the remaining cards to the graveyard. So what you do with this card is you mill top 5 cards of your deck and hope that you get the World Legacy's Mind Meld. Most of the time. Sometimes you also want to get the pawns or you want to get a crawler, but the main allure of this card is the fact that it sends the rest of the cards to the graveyard. So if you send your Dynamiscus, you can special summon it back later. If you send your Lost Wind, you can set it when your opponent special summons a monster. If you send your Mind Meld, however, you can use the second effect of Mind Meld, which reads: you can banish this card from your graveyard and target a link monster on the field, and then special summon 1 crawler monster in face down defense position from your deck to a zone that link monster points to. So basically, it gives you instant access to Deus Ex crawler, however in defense position. But if you, for instance, use World Legacy Survivor milling 5 cards, one of which can be a Mind Meld, you can then normal summon any of your crawlers with 1000 or less attack, or even an Absolute King Backjack, and then banish the Mind Meld, link them into the Almirage, and then banish the Mind Meld to special summon the Deus Ex crawler in defense mode. So that's basically your entire strategy. The Absolute King Backjack states that if it's sent to the graveyard, you can look at the top 3 cards of your deck and then rearrange them in any position you want them. And then in your opponent's turn, you can banish it from the graveyard, excavate the top card of your deck, and if it's a normal trap, you can set it to your field. And then it can be activated this turn. So what you would do is, if you have it in your hand, you can normal summon it and link it into Almirage, and then use its effect to stack your deck in a way that you can have a normal trap on the top of it, and then in your opponent's turn you can just banish it and set the trap. And also you can also use the effect of Backjack if it's sent to the graveyard by Dendrite or by the World Legacy Survivor. We also have 1 copy of Scapegoat to go into link plays, and we have Lost Wind, Compulse to prevent our opponent from playing. Dynamiscus is also just generically good. Witch's Strike is kind of interesting because it can win you some games all by itself. It states that if your opponent negates a normal summon or a special summon of a monster or the activation of a card or effect, you can destroy all of the cards they control and all of the cards in their hand. So for instance, you activate, let's say, Compulsory Evacuation Device on their, I don't know, Cyber Dragon Infinity. They chain the Infinity to negate the Compulse, and then on the resolution of that chain, you can activate a Witch's Strike, which will destroy all of his cards. Or if you have a Trap Trick set, you can activate Compulse, they negate the Compulse, you chain the Trap Trick, so you set the Witch's Strike from your deck, and then on the resolution of that chain you can activate the Witch's Strike, destroying all of your opponent's cards, which is just a blowout card that I think any normal trap deck should play. The last card we are gonna be talking about is World Legacy Pawns, and this card is a continuous trap that reads: you can target 1 face down monster you control, change it to face up attack or defense position. So what you would do is have your crawler, you know, special summon in face down defense position by any of the means that we discussed previously, and then activating pawns, you can flip up the crawler to use its skill drain like effect. The other effect is you can shuffle 1 crawler monster from your graveyard into the main deck, then target 1 face-up monster you control and change that face-up monster to face-down defense position. So what this does is allow you to use your flip effect of your crawlers multiple times, or even just prevent them from being destroyed, since when they are set face-down they are targeted as... they are treated as a different monster, basically. that's it for the main deck. Let's talk about the extra deck for a little bit. So we have a mini Paleozoic package, and this is mostly because we have triple Paleozoic Deinonychus in our deck, and we also have our crawlers, which are also level 2. So you can make this with a Paleozoic and a crawler, and then what it does is it's unaffected by monster effects, and you can activate Paleozoic trap card from your hand during any player's turn. And if this card has a trap as material, you can detach one Xyz material from this card, add a Paleozoic trap from your deck to your hand. So what you would do is Xyz summon it with Deinonychus and any of your level 2 crawlers, then you can detach one to add another Deinonychus to your hand, and then you can activate Deinonychus from your hand and chain the detached Deinonychus from the graveyard, so you would be able to have 2 more Paleozoics on the field. You can then link those into Paleozoic combo roster, which requires 2 Paleozoic monsters. It's also unaffected by monster effects, but once per turn you can target one set or spell or trap card, set card in the spell or trap zone, send it to the graveyard, and if you do, you can set one Paleozoic trap directly from your deck, which can be activated this turn. So you can remove a face-up monster with Deinonychus and a spell or trap with combo roster, while setting another Deinonychus onto your field, which you can also activate. Now, this is a long shot because you would need to discard 2, 3, even 4 cards maybe for this combo to work. However, you are in a way removing your opponent's board. Borolo Dragon is just a big monster that we can summon sometimes to steal games, but it's not very likely to get summoned. But it's just there in case we do get into it. Nightmare Phoenix and Nightmare Unicorn are just generic removals, and Nightmare Unicorn is actually the most summoned Link monster in this deck, if you can believe it. Well, right after Lib, the World Keyblade Master. So what Lib does is it requires 2 monsters, and it can only be Link summoned while having a World Legacy card in your graveyard. And you can also use each effect of Lib, the World Keyblade Master, once per turn. First effect is that once per turn you can set a World Legacy card directly from your deck. However, it cannot be used this turn if you have no World Legacy monsters in your graveyard. We are running 0 World Legacy monsters, so you will just be setting cards with her effect and then using them on the following turn. So what you can do with Lib is set a World Legacy Mind Meld, or set a Bonds, or set Survivor to use on your next turn, or set your field so you can have a field on the board. But the second effect is the more important one, which states that if this Link summoned card is sent to the graveyard as Link material, you can shuffle 1 card on the field into the deck, and this doesn't target and doesn't destroy, so it's an amazing removal. So what you would do is go into Lib, then link Lib into a Unicorn, and then you can spin 1 card into the deck with the Unicorn effect and spin another card into the deck with the Lib effect. Now, if we weren't playing on a budget, you could even throw in an access code talker to steal the game, but I mean, that's all up to you. So we are playing 1 Link Spider, which you can summon with a Scapegoat token or a Paleozoic monster, and it gives you a downward pointing arrow, which you can use for World Legacy's Mind Meld. We are also playing 1 Almirage, which we can summon with most of our monsters. 1 Transcode Talker, so we can bring back the Lib and attack for some better damage. 1 of each of the crawler links, which are not that useful, but we are playing them just in case, and their floating effect can be pretty nice. We are running 1 Akashic Magician in the final slot, which we can use to bounce our opponent's monsters back into their hand, in case they are putting them in the zone opposed to the extra monster zone. For our side deck, we are running triple Artifact Lancia, which prevents our opponent from banishing cards, which can be useful against some of the more meta decks. We are running 1 Pancratops for going second, triple Dark Hole for going second, and double Dogger and the Mad Flame Kaiju, which gets around the untargetable, indestructible Big Dingus boss monsters. We are running triple Different Dimension Ground, which we can also search with our Trap Trick, and this is when you want your opponent to lose because their deck is using the graveyard. And last but not least, triple And the Band Played On, which is just a floodgate for most of the decks which use Xyz summoning or even Drytrons, because Drytrons summon only almost exclusively level 1 monsters, so you can prevent them from doing that. Without further ado, let's get into the games. Well guys, this is it for this video. I hope that you learned something new today and that you might eventually try out the crawlers, because they're pretty fun. If you want to go even more budget than this, you could replace the trap tricks with a Pot of Duality, because you don't special summon that much anyways. If you however have any of the better cards to go in the side deck, make sure to include them. As for the main deck monsters that you could buy with more money, I would suggest Girsu, the Orcust Mech Knight. He can on summon send a Mind Meld from the deck to the graveyard and then create a token for you. Then you can link the Girsu and the token into a Lib, and then Lib can set a World Legacy pawns from your deck. Then you can banish the Mind Meld targeting the Lib, and you can special summon a Deus Ex directly from your deck in the face down defense position. Then on the following turn you can flip it face up, thus avoiding all of the hassle of having your opponent destroy or remove your crawler. As for some of the extra deck options, you could include an Ingirsu, the World Chalice Warrior, for his non-targeting removal, which combos decently well with Lib, I would say. A Linkaribo would also be nice, cause you can combo it with Absolute King, Backjack and the Scapegoat tokens. As for Link 4 that's better than Borreload, look no further than Access Code Talker, because you can make an easy OTK with him and he's just incredible. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, and if you would like me to make more of these, let me know in the comments down below. I have a few more decks that you can probably build with just 10 euros, so if you would like me to show them to you, don't hesitate to ask. I'll see you in the next one. Bye!